going on, SSBL peeps? Welcome to episode 7 of Jack. Lucky number 7 here with Fisack. My name is Jay Watts, and week 7 hasn't come to a conclusion just yet as of this upload. Obviously, we have another block of Super Saturday, so if you are tuning in to this, make sure you tune in on Twitch to Super Saturday block number 2. Fisack just finished block number 1. Even though we just finished it, he has no idea what happened because we're recording this a day before. But we
record these live and they upload as we're constantly uploading. It's like you got super fast internet.
Yeah. It's updated. We update individual segments. So week 7. Obviously, we had a lot of conversation. Obviously, this is a Super Saturday week, which is a really big week in the SSBL. And we had some matchups where we're like, this might be a pretty good week, and it turned into an absolute blood bath, but like not a fight. It's just like one person just got destroyed. The closest game this week is what? It was rough. I mean, if
the close games were the ones that shouldn't have been close games. Like
the closest game we had all week was a 3-0 victory of the Knights beating the Liberty. That's the closest score. That's the closest score we had all week.
I mean, we've had some close games so far this season, so maybe this week was just to balance it out.
This is just to balance it out. We have a lot of, well, not a lot. We have 3 massive, and we'll get to that in just a moment, massive double-digit run production from actually from 3 different teams against 2 different teams. So we're going to get right into it. The first game that we have to talk about is your Dragons. Dragons taking on the Moonshots, and Dragons just absolutely annihilate the Moonshots, which is to be expected, which we're going to go ahead and give a nice round of applause to Pandora for having the best tanking season ever. People have tried to tank. People have tried to tank and failed. He has done it perfectly.
I have everything that Pandora touches turns to gold, and that's even turning things into crap. It turns into gold crap. Like, I mean, but to be fair, in this one, the Dragons had 17 runs off of 30 base runners, and they gave up a lot of opportunities in the beginning of the game. It was only 7-2. Approaching like the last 4 outs of the game, and then they gave up 10 runs.
Yeah.
Including 7 in the top of the 9th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not much to take from this one. These are the cake games for the postseason hopefuls, and job done.
Yeah, absolutely. So a very quick one there. We head to the Cyclones getting their second victory of the season with a win over the Sparrows, which, to be honest, it's the Sparrows. It's nothing, I've lost to the Sparrows, so I know how that feels. But it's the Sparrows. But the thing is, the Cyclones this year have probably been the most unlucky team in the entire SSBL. Like some games where they should have won. It's very similar to, like, if you're going to compare teams from the conferences, it's the Express and the Cyclones. They're very similar, where the Express could well be above, like a game or 2 above 500 at this point, versus the same thing with the Cyclones, where they could be a game or 2 above 500. But they do get the victory here against a rather weak Sparrow squad.
And I do want to quickly shout out, I'll post this in the Discord later on Friday night, but that was the 200th game managed by Styx, which actually leads all managers across all competitions. He actually even leads you, and you coach and you manage 2 teams at one time.
How does that happen?
Postseason. So he has 96 games but in the regular season, but somehow has 104 in the... Hold on.
I don't think that's accurate. There's no way that he has 104 games in the postseason, when I don't think there's ever been... There's barely even been 104 games in the postseason in the history of the league.
Hold on, let me look at the math here. Okay, so this is W73 plus... Okay, so then how does this add up? It's W82... Where's W8?
Technical difficulties here on Jacked. Again, as we've said, one take wonders here on Jacked. We do not.
I I'm gonna do some analysis here.
Right. While he does the analysis of who actually has 104 victories or whatever in the, or 104 games managed in the postseason somehow, we're going to move on to the next game. Wrong fielders, retrievers. This is one that we were looking forward to, as it did play like a big part in that heroic conference playoff picture, and the retrievers just came out and outclassed the wrong fielders completely at home as well. um, Fisack, your thoughts on this dog win?
The dog. Okay, I figured it out. I figured it out. It's because it's also adding the lifetime games. So
Uh,
in
s-
actuality, it should just be uh it should just be actually it should just be for those. And okay, yeah, I figured it out. I figured it out. So
right. So
six
not
is not
200, not
Six has
number
not done
200.
200 games. I'm gonna have to go back and check that. That also might skew your results as well, to be fair.
That's
But that's
fine.
not to say,
That's
once I
fine.
read it and saw 104 games in the postseason, I realized something was probably gonna be off.
All right.
I thought the Romfielders had a chance against the Retrievers going into this game. Um, but the Retrievers are finally picking up steam and
Yep.
are finally making themselves solid. Now, it's been a while since we've seen the overdrafts in action, but much necessary huge win for the Retrievers.
Yeah, we haven't seen the overdrafts in action since they faced the Retrievers last week in Week 6, Day 2, where they fell to the Retrievers 5-3. Prior to that, they lost. It was Week 5, Day 1, so we've only seen them twice in 2 weeks, so now 3 weeks. So considering Week 7, and they both have the overdrafts have lost those two games. We'll see them the first game of the second block, so make sure you do tune into that if you're watching this live on YouTube as it premieres. So yeah, Retrievers, they're now at the top of the Icons division, which is good for them, and it's exactly kind of what we expected of the Retrievers heading into this season. Moving on to the final game of day one, High Rollers, Angels. It was to be expected. The High Rollers continue to roll, and the Angels continue to go up into the heavens. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a little interested to see if anything was going to happen with the Angels coming off that upset of the Stingers, but no, back down to earth. Everything business as usual. Got the one win this season to make only two winless teams, which it is interesting that we have more winless teams than we do in terms of how long it lasted until like when I think when the Gauchos lost to the Unicorns, that's when the last winless team was done. So we only got like 4 or 5 weeks into the season before kaput, no chance. Although the Lumberjacks, they went for a decent amount of time last season going unbeaten. But yeah, for the High Rollers, putting up numbers and taking care of business in order to stay attached to the Serpents there in the division.
Yeah, and we're just 3 weeks away from the first encounter of Moonshot's Liberty. So week 10, day 4, so a Super Saturday. It's currently slotted in the SSBL Game of the Night or Day, presented by Turtle Beach. So I'm excited. Hopefully that both teams go into that weekend still defeated. Liberty have 2 games. They just played you guys and the Dragons, which of course
And hopefully we take care of the business and didn't play down to our
but
opposition.
but they play the last game of the second block of Super Saturday, and it's against the Walkers. So that one, Liberty are not a great team at all, but the Walkers, you never know what could happen. So moving on, day 2, Skulls. They start off with a nice 5-0 lead, and they lose 9-5. Seems very much like the Texas Rangers. So just, I guess, sticks with me. Rangers, get a nice lead, and then just the bullpen gives it up. So, which this wasn't the bullpen. Bullpen actually did well for the Skulls. It was the free agent signee Bronco Ford giving up a handful of runs, as well as Weber giving up runs. So Stingers bounced back after the biggest upset in probably SSBL history with a 9-5 division win over the Skulls.
Yeah, and I mean, doing what you need to do in terms of losing, but it probably does suck when you have good opponents like that. You tend to go off well, and then just failed to compensate. If anything, it was only that one inning, but what an inning
Hmm.
it was to give it up. Ended up still out hitting them.
Yeah.
So unfortunate for you, but business as usual
But
for the
yeah,
Stingers to
and
keep.
go ahead.
And I'm just saying business as usual to keep up with the ball players. I'll be honest, I didn't know where that sentence was gonna end.
No, but like looking at it, going into that game, Bronco Ford, he was a free agent too. Signee was Bronco Ford. I did not expect I did not expect a victory. I'm having him at number 1 for a reason.
I do have the final stats for Sticks. So
Okay.
he's not at 200 games managed. He's at 104. So a little bit
Okay.
less.
So he's at 104. Okay, got it.
Yeah, a little bit less. I don't know what I was doing. I think what it is that it's a pretty routine formula for the rest of them, but
Yeah.
because I think he is the first aside from you to manage, well, except for running, to manage 2 different teams, which reminds me I need to check running's totals to make sure I'm not gimping his. That does
um
it doesn't look like I'm giving running any additional ones. Um, but yeah, so 104 total for Sticks. Anyways, back to where we're at.
back to
Uh,
some SSBL action. We'll move on to the
the
Knights.
Stingers doing what they need to do to keep pace, and especially given how good the ball players have been on the run, need to keep on doing that. And
Right.
for you, the action that you're seeing from the season 8s, from the free agent acquisitions, they need to produce if they want to keep their spot heading into next year.
Right. Well, and I'm also, looking at the Vern Knight Jr., for example, that acquisition, which I am very pleased with so far. So just a matter of time, and a lot of them are still S6 and S7s, I think, for the most part for the Skulls. So not too concerned with it at all. But we head to this matchup, Knights and Liberty, and this is, in my opinion, obviously it's the Liberty, but at the same time, this was
In my opinion, it's the Liberty.
but this was Shep Franks, who we haven't seen a quality Shep Franks in probably 2 seasons, where if Shep Franks came in, you were like, shit. And we haven't seen that. And then Shep Franks starts this game against the Liberty, strikes out 10 batters, which for Shep Franks is probably the first time he's done that since probably, I don't know, S5 or 6. It's been quite some time, I think, that Shep Franks has had such a quality outing overall. But again, it is a Liberty, but the Knights do get the victory 3-0.
Yeah, and I mean, this was the closest game, but it really wasn't because the Knights nearly quadruply out-hit the Liberty as well. So it was more so just the offense not converting for the Knights and the Liberty forgetting that you do have to swing the bat.
Yes,
in
correct.
order to win games. This is a hot tip for all managers. You do need to score runs to win games.
Yes.
So with that new knowledge, we'll see if the Liberty can apply that into their future. But it was the closest. I mean, that speaks to how one-sided this week was, if that was the closest game that we had.
Yeah, the fact that the Liberty are in the closest game of the week, that just speaks volumes to how this week truly ended up, which we move on to our next contest, which is the Lumberjacks and Vikings, where this was this the game that Toe Jam first started, or was that the second one? I think it was the second one.
Yeah, no, this is the game Toe Jam started.
This was Toe Jam?
Yes.
Okay, so Toe Jam started that one. Let's see. The Toe Jam starting this one. He came. I mean, if you think about it, the trades that DDC and Hummus have made, they're actually showing out. Rec Dreams is finally finding his footing this season. Toe Jam coming out and pitching a solid game against their division rival. Obviously, Lumberjacks and Knights. Lumberjacks, Knights, Vikings. Those have been the rivals, but like, now that the Knights are falling off, it's now a battle between the Jacks and Vikings. And the acquisitions for this season, they're finally showing out, and this is where this Lumberjack squad is starting to get scary. And I think, this it was a crucial loss for the Vikings, and one that was not even close. That's the other thing, not even close. 9-1 is the final.
And reaffirms what we already know to have been true, which is that this was probably the chalkiest division aside from the heroic evolution in terms of where everybody sat. I think the Jacks had a couple of early losses, and the Vikings were winning a couple here and there, so that made it so that it was a little closer in terms of the records. But the Jacks are clearly far and above every other team in this division,
Hmm.
and I think we can safely go ahead and slot them in as the division winners. I mean, who knows? They still got, I think they've got another 8 games this season. The Vikings still have another 9, but the Vikings have a long trip uphill from where they currently are at. And, the pitching certainly is there, but we've yet to see that the batting order can produce.
Yeah, and we'll get into the Lumberjacks a little bit more in detail once we get into overrated, underrated, because there's a lot to talk about their upcoming schedule, how they're going to finish out this season. But we move on to the next one. Another defeat for the Moonshots, this time against the Express, 5-1, the final there. So Moonshots, they put up 1 run against the Express squad, and Express get a nice little victory.
Yeah, and for the Express, it's funnily enough for the Express, there we talked about this. They're the first team that is going to be on the chopping block in terms of first team most likely to be eliminated because they've played 12 games. They only have 4 games left the entire season, while some teams have. I mean, the Gunners have played 6 games,
Yeah, they
and
have.
the Express has played 12.
Yeah.
But they're most likely their season is going to be wrapping up here. I think we took a look, and it's not for another 2 weeks that'll be decided for them when they most likely lose that game that they'll face. And they do play another one here against the Wrongfitters that we'll talk about.
Mhm.
But going to show just how low the bar is for the Moonshots this
Yep.
season, which if we're talking about how low the bar is, the next game
Yeah,
continues
we'll
that.
just continue with the Moonshots run production, almost like they're like a food truck of runs. Like come get your runs. We're over here. Come grab them. You want another 17? We're more than happy to give you another 17. They give up another 17 runs.
They're givers, man. They just keep on giving.
They give up another 17 runs, this time for the Jacks, which I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Obviously, SportsCenter comes up with their random stats ever. Like, this is the first time LeBron James has ever won a game eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for breakfast and McDonald's for lunch on a Wednesday. I'm going to go ahead and say this is the first time any team has lost twice in the same week and gave up 17 runs. It's a random stat, but I'm going to go ahead and say it.
17 or more.
15 or more. Let's say that. That's the number. That's the SportsCenter little number. So to lose twice.
We are witnessing history right now. If you're not watching a Moonshots game this season, listen, they take a little bit longer.
Yes.
But watch it because you will never see a team this bad ever again in the SSBL.
No.
Maybe another person will see what the Moonshots have done and say, I will find lower. But so far, I have yet to see any indication that the Moonshots can even win 1 game this season.
I don't think so, man. And like I said, I applaud Pandora for actually tanking. Like, he had the mission of tanking, and he's told me so. He's not going anywhere. Pandora, he's here for the tank, and he wants to ride out the results of rebuilding. So he is here. He's not going anywhere. So that he's gonna see out the entire rebuild process. But 17 runs twice. You played 3 games this week, and you gave up 34, and then you gave up another 5, so 39 to 4.
13 runs a game.
39 to 4. You're losing 13
They're
to 1.
so bad. They're so bad. It's not even close. They're so bad.
It is rough. It's a rough time for the Moonshots. But that's what they want. They if I'm not mistaken, they have their own pick plus like 2 or 3 other first round picks. uh, they're set for greatness in the future. Obviously, it's going to take a little time to get there. So we move on to what I thought was going to be a little bit closer of a matchup. To be honest, the wrong fielders end up beating the Express and get the best of them. And this game, man, there was so much. Express just couldn't find a hit, really. Like they couldn't get on base. Sandra Lee had like 9 strikeouts, I believe, and it was just like, I think I asked DDC in the chat, why are you swinging at that, bro? Because I think he struck out once or twice, and it was just like they were swinging at stuff way out of the zone. Like it was a close game for a little bit, and then the wrong fielders just got on their own train and just took it home. So I don't know if you watched it, but it was.
I'll be honest. I didn't watch many games this week, which is interesting because I think like we switched because I feel like you definitely consumed more SSBL content than me this week. We had consultants here all week, and so I was doing 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. days, and very much so huge appreciation to everyone that stepped in to cast this week to help make sure that we got games in. Especially approaching finals week as well for me. But for the wrong fielders, they're starting to show if they are going to do something special this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
We know it's going to be through that young pitching.
Yep.
This is not a team that's going to blow you away with runs. This is a team that is going to put up 4, 5, 6, 7, but then absolutely constrain you and suffocate you with their young pitching. Now, that's a very slim margin because those are young pitchers that aren't the best in terms of rating compared to other teams, as well as the depth is a little bit lacking. But if the Romfielders are going to do something special this postseason, it's going to have to be through Blurns, through Lee, through that talent that they've fostered up into their majors.
And the thing as well with the wrong fielders, and this is where there's the slight concern with them for the rest of the season, because their final 6 games are Wildcats, Walkers, Gauchos, Moonshots, Overdrafts. To me, that's 2 wins. That's only 2 wins. I don't think they can sneak one past the Overdrafts. I think the Wildcats will handle them pretty well as the Gauchos. So you have to beat the Walkers and the Moonshots, which you should beat the Moonshots. So then it comes down to the Walkers. This is a rough, probably I want to say probably the toughest 6 games for a team that's trying to get a postseason appearance. This is probably the toughest 6 games, and it's going to be a battle for them, and they're going to have to rely on that young pitching staff. So we'll see what happens, but that was a crucial win against a weaker Express team that they needed after losing to the Retrievers. But they're gonna have to look forward and focus on their next 6 games, because their final 6 are not fun at all. Not fun. Great for a viewer's perspective, but if you're lasers, you're probably not looking too hot there. Maybe a little bit of panic.
You're looking. I wouldn't. They're not in panic and chill, but I would look at the Vikings and the Knights, and I would say you're probably fine. And in fact, you may want to get that 6th seed as opposed to getting a 5 or a 4 and then having to face the Gauchos in the next round. So I'm not as worried for them, but that is a beefy 6-game stint to end the season.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very, very beefy one, which they could end up 8-8, which could make chaos down the road. We shall see. But we move on to the next game. This was the game of the night where the Serpents take on the Cyclones, and obviously, as we've talked about, Cyclones just can't catch a break. They have Doug Kelly back. They had many opportunities with runners in scoring position, or just even men on base, and they just couldn't get them home. They finally started to get some runs in. I want to say it was the 7th or 8th inning that they got some runs in to cut it closer, but then the Serpents answered back and extended and got a little bit of cushion towards the end of the game. Serpents now moved to 6-2, sitting in that number 3 spot, which right now would face the Wildcats in the first round. So this game was close to start, and then it was not close to start. It got a little interesting towards the end, and then it was done. It was done. Cyclones done.
Yeah, tough, and it's just tough for the Cyclones because I feel like that's just been since they've been here in season 4. Like, they won that division that first season, but it's just been constant mediocrity. And it really necessarily, like, you can point to a couple of issues in terms of bullpen depth, in terms of depth of batting, but I mean, as much as we talked about like the Brock Hansen wasting away on the Dragons for the number of seasons that he did and not getting anything special, I mean, how bad must it feel for Doug Kelly, Jet County, Kyle Edwards? I mean, bona fide S tiers, and just a team that just can never seem to put it together. I wouldn't say that the Cyclone season is over, but they would need to do something incredibly special in order to even have a shot.
Yep. I would agree with that one. It's a tough road ahead for the Cyclones, and a tough situation for that organization. They don't have a lot. I think Marge put it in the chat during the stream. There are a lot of S4s. They have like I think Marge said like 3 or 4 guys who won't get negative aging this season in the majors at least, and then I don't know if that might even be in the entire organization. But they're such an older squad. It's going to be tough to bounce back. They did trade 2 first rounders for Bean Machine, which was brought up in chat as well. And I just think we need to, like, the Cyclones they have 2 picks next season. They have 3 after that. So it's just a very scary sight for the Cyclones.
Very spoopy, especially when you look at the Stingers in your division, the ball players in your division. Now, the ball players should fall off, but every season we say the ball players should fall off because they've always sold the farm for their current, but they always seem to find more farm to sell.
Somehow they find it. But yeah, Cyclones fall to the Serpents. They would now fall to 2-6. They're 4th in the Epic Novas behind the Skulls, who are 3-6, which I want to say they play each other soon. I think next week, actually.
Cyclones?
The Cyclones and Skulls, I think they play next week.
That's the Cyclones' next game is the Skulls.
Yep. Okay. So they play next week. Should be a good one. We move on to this one. Bombers, and they absolutely destroy the Mythic, which is to be expected. This was actually a pretty funny one because earlier in the stream, I want to say it was during the Serpents game, Lasers comes in and asks, like, what's the most runs that have been produced by like both teams, like in one game, what's the most runs scored? So I looked through like every single schedule I could find, and like which was basically all the schedules from season 1 all the way to 8, and obviously I just breezed through them, and I'm gonna say it's official. We might have to look back and look and just to double check, but the most amount of runs in one game is 29.
Can I guess?
Oh, it's
29 in one game.
Not by one team combined. 29.
Was that a Dragons game?
No. It was before your time, a long time ago. It was season 2 Super Series, game number 2. The Knights destroy the Serpents 25-4, which is also the most runs scored by a single team in a single game is 25. So like last night in this game, the Bombers put 4 runs up really quick, and I want to say they did it, and they only still had like 1 out, had I think the bases loaded still. Like it was, they could have probably put up 10 in that inning, but I think they got into a double play, which ended the running. The runs.
Running was there? It ended. We ended running.
The running up the score in that inning, because I was like, all right, they need 22 more, and but this game was not close, but it was a good game to watch them bounce the Bombers bounce back with such a big win. Yes, it's the Mythic, but to see the offense put up the numbers, Mickey Daydell Crusher, how do you pronounce his name, gets his first career home run in this game, and it was an absolute blast into right center field. So it's good to see the Bombers offense produce the way it did. Obviously, again, it is the Mythic, but it's such a good sight to see for the Bombers as they head into facing the Serpents twice in the next like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, and it's a crucial win for the Bombers, right? Like they have had some tough luck with injuries. They've had some really close games against the high rollers, against the ball players. So they need to start winning games, and especially getting these Kate games and getting them done well is going to be their key to fighting back to get in. Because again, between the Serpents, Wildcats, high rollers, and Bombers, one of those teams is not making it, in my opinion. And as of right now, the Bombers would be on the outside looking in.
Right, and and also something to note. If I can remember what I was actually going to say about the Bombers, I had something that I was going to say, and it went. I lost it. I lost track. I don't know where it went.
What are you doing? Can you like be any semblance of professional?
Absolutely. I can do that all day, every day, as I have to. Gosh, there was something about this that I was going to say about this Bombers squad, but I just can't think of it. I should have wrote it down. But anyways, 19-4, Bombers getting that victory. Oh yes, I remember now. You said the Bombers had, they've had a lot of injuries. They did get another one. However, it was a sore hip. It was just a sore hip. So the guy stayed in the game, but it was a sore hip. I think it was, might have been Pujols. I don't know. I can't remember exactly who it was. But it was a sore hip. There was a sore hip in the game. The guy stayed in, but everyone was like, geez, not another one. Another one for the Bombers.
Another one. Thank you.
Right. It's like Oprah Winfrey giving out stuff. Now we move on to overrated, underrated, and this one, obviously, we just talked about every single one outside of Super Saturday, Week 7 games. Were these games kind of overrated, obviously based on the results, or were they still like underrated games? Because I have my opinion. What's yours?
Very, very overrated. Just absolute snooze fest.
Yes.
I mean, I think this is like one of those weeks where you could get away just watching Jacked and being like, "Yep,
absolutely.
Yep, that's." Yeah. I mean, was there a single upset in the entire week at all?
Nope, there was nothing even close to an upset. Again, we talked about the closest game was a 3-run ball game, and it was the Knights over the Liberty, which is nothing. It was just, and again, like you said, if you have a Moonshots are playing in that game, or in that day of games, it's going to be a longer stream. You're going to get at least 3 hours into your stream if the Moonshots are playing. And there was 2 streams, I believe, both on day 1 and day 3, that the stream went over 3 hours because they were too busy giving up 17 runs. So instead of a 2.5-hour stream, 2 hour 45 minutes, we'll go with the extra 15, even 30 minutes. So it was a snooze fest. Overrated games this week. Kind of a disappointment. I wanted a little bit more chaos this week. But maybe we'll get it Saturday. Maybe that first block had some really nice stuff. Maybe the second block after this episode of Jack will have some nice stuff, but we'll see. And we'll talk about obviously next week's episode, we'll talk about the division outlook after the Super Saturday. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, the Lumberjacks. We talk about them and we say, they're going to win the division. They're going to win the division. But, like, how good is this Lumberjacks team? Are they rated appropriately? Are we underrating them, overrating them? What's the consensus for in your mind here on this Lumberjack squad?
Let me pull up some roster movement for you. Okay?
Okay.
So, since we have started the season,
Yeah.
the Lumberjacks have gotten Wreck Dreams,
Yep.
Sir Alex Einstein, Ben Tojam. We're underrating this team. I think that their losses were a little bit variable, and they have only gotten better since then.
Right.
I mean, I think especially for them, pitching has always been like something that they could always improve. Ben Tojam and Sir Alex Einstein does that for you. And then to add in Wreck Dreams as well, like, to me, this is a Lumberjack squad that if there's going to be, I honestly think the Lumberjacks are in a better position right now in terms of overall ratings than the Retrievers. And so I think if there's anyone, right, if I had to power rank the heroic, I would put Gauchos, I would put Lumberjacks, then like Retrievers Overdrafts battling in at the number 3. So I think we're underrating these Lumberjacks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm looking at their run differential and their more so their runs that they've given up overall within their 8 games, and they're only giving up they've only given up 19 runs overall. If you look at this entire Heroic Legends division, your run differential goes 44-2. Like, that's the jump between these teams. And if you also look across the board at the rest of the Heroic, the Retrievers, they're a +13, where the Lumberjacks are a +44. Gauchos 5-1, +34. I just this team is underrated, and I think that they're finally showing up. Like I said, Wreck Dreams is showing up as he didn't do on the Skulls, and the Ben Tojam is, he had a great outing his first time as a Lumberjack. Sir Alex Einstein returns to the Lumberjacks as he once was a Lumberjack I want to say a season or 2 ago. So it's nice to see. And we look ahead at their schedule as well. As I mentioned earlier in the podcast, they play the Overdrafts. Okay. Overdrafts are their next game. Should be a nice little, I would almost say kind of like a true testament of who this Lumberjack squad is. It's a good test for them. I do think they're going to win that game. Then they face the Vikings, which we saw what they did to the Vikings the first time. And then they face the Bombers, which I think that one's going to be a really, really good one. And then the Gauchos is probably out of all the rest of the Lumberjacks games, that's probably my most, the game to watch is that Gauchos Lumberjacks game, because that's battling for the number 1 seed in my opinion. I think the Retrievers are also in that picture, but that could potentially be a fight for the number 1 seed in the Heroic, which is something you want to have. So I'm definitely thinking this Lumberjack squad is overrated, which
interesting.
We actually agree.
Wait, you're saying they're overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Did I say over?
Oh, I thought you said overrated for a second. I'm like, wait a second.
Underrated. Under.
Under UNDERRATED. Underrated.
Yeah, and most podcasts, most episodes of Jacked, we would move right in to the next segment of Panic and Chill, a fan favorite Panic and Chill moment. But it's time to add in a new segment. It's time for Mojo Down with Fisack.
You know what's getting my mojo down right now? Their season is over. Oh, the ball players, you've won the division. When are we going to start realizing that the season is 16 games and nothing is decided within the first 6 weeks of the season? Unless you're the Moonshots, guess what? You have multiple games in your season to win, to lose. What we know is stable is never stable. You know what's getting my mojo down is everyone saying that things are a lock. And I'll admit, I've been a victim of this before. I have said, oh, the road is uphill. They've got much to cover. But you know what that is? That's not certainty. That's a vendetta. That's what they need to accomplish. And every single manager in this freaking league, I feel like always says, oh, their season is over. They're done. They're done for. What are they going to do? The ball players, since season 5, has sold every single asset they've had to win that season. And every season they say, surely they have no more. And yet, season in and season out, here they are competing. The overdrafts, they were dead in the water, and now all of a sudden they're competing in the icons. The Dragons won 6 in a row and didn't even make postseason in season 5. They lost multiple games in a row to start the season and made postseason for the first time in season 6 under my tutelage. Here's the deal, guys. There are 16 games in a season. Anything can happen. Your season is not over until the last game is done. Stop bringing my mojo down and just enjoy the games.
that was classic. You'll be able to see Mojo down every week now, right after Overrated Underrated with Fisack. That was fabulous.
I'm gonna have to figure out some things to get mad at. I already have a couple that I can use.
That was great. That was wonderful. That gives us a nice little segue right into Panic and Chill. You seemed like you were panicking, so let's see if we can chill you out a little bit. The Vikings. Are we panicking yet, or are we still staying chill? Because they're right now on the outside looking into this postseason race. Is it time to panic for the Vikings?
They are currently a game and a half back out of the 6th spot. I'm panicking. The only reason I'm not panicking more is because the Romfielders, as we talked about, they've got a decent climb ahead of them. But if the Romfielders, if we're expecting them to finish 8-8, that means that the Vikings need to go at least 5-4 to end their season. I'm not confident that they can go 5-4 to end their season. They're pitching. No one is saying that the Vikings starting pitching is subpar. They have a phenomenal starting pitching, but they've got games against the Lumberjacks, against the Retrievers, the Unicorns, the Gauchos, the Overdrafts. Those are 5 games right there where they are the clear underdog, and you need to only drop, or you need to at least win one of those. Yeah. And then also take care of business against the Knights, against the Liberty, against the Express, against the Knights again. This is far from guaranteed for the Vikings, and I am panicking because you are right now 3 wins away from even being a part of the conversation.
Yeah, they're it's starting to get really, really crazy for the Vikings, and as you mentioned, and we'll see obviously in the second block here on Super Saturday, facing the Knights at home as well. The Knights and the Vikings, that's such a historic, like Noodles Nunez. That's my favorite moment of these two teams facing off against each other was Noodles Nunez coming in and hitting the walk-off home run to win the division 2 seasons ago. That was probably the craziest and best call that I think you have probably ever had in this history of this league. It was such a great call there, and it's one of the, that call alone will stick in my head for the remainder of my life, of Noodles Nunez. And again, the Vikings and the Knights are such a historic rivalry in the postseason, more so than in the regular season. Regular season's kind of been a one-sided affair, but you get them in the postseason, it's crazy. But for them to face off, they still have to face off twice. And no, I'm not saying the Knights are making the postseason, but they're going to make it hard for the Vikings to make it into the postseason. That's the problem.
Viewers, if you're listening, Josh is watching his words. because I've already told him I don't want to make him a part of Mojo Down, but he tests me every single week, and I inch closer and closer to adding him. And now the issue is you've now given me a platform,
You're
which is
welcome.
everyone's. It's a constant. To be fair, that's an issue that not only you have done, but multiple people have given me a platform, and that's an issue. So
So yes, I'm with you. If I'm the Vikings, I'm panicking. And I'm also panicking because Tammy John's appearances are very, very rare, and that's, I think, the problem. I think they need to put in a CP if they don't already have one, and get one of the those bad pitchers within that bullpen. They need to just get them out of there, because that's what CP does. A handful of us have CPs in this league, and it's all a player that they do not want to come in when it's like a closer game, but like in the 6th, 7th inning. We don't want to. So it's time for them to panic. And I think it's getting rough for them. But we move on to the epic content. It's what it says here on the site. But this is the epic contenders. These are the Wildcats. We could even go say the High Rollers, the Bombers. These are those teams that are really trying to contend for a spot in the epic. And it's starting to get crazy. The Bombers face the Serpents twice in the next 3 or so weeks. That's good. That's one of the most historic rivalries in all of the SSBL. It's going to shake up that entire division. Not only that entire division, it's going to shake up the entire postseason picture in the epic. If you're one of those teams, especially in my opinion, the Wildcats, is it panic time? Can you even be chill when it's so close between these 3 or 4 teams?
I would say that there needs to be a sense of urgency. I think that's the first new level that we have. I would say be a little bit urgent here, because right now Serpents are sitting at the top of Phenoms, right? 6-2.
Yep.
Bombers low pits of 4-4. Guess what? The Bombers sweep the series against the Serpents. All of a sudden, you got 2 teams at 6-4, and the High Rollers with 1 loss there. You could have a 3-way tie at 6-4 in the Phenoms. For which Josh is already craving that that toxicity. I might have to do my next Mojo Down on just your craving for violence. But I would say there needs to be a sense of urgency, because I think that if you're those 4 teams, I think you're not that comfortable with Bombers at 4-4, because the Bombers can very easily turn that around.
Absolutely. I mean, in looking at their schedule, the next 3 games for the Bombers are not fun, honestly. They play the Serpents, and they play the Lumberjacks, and they play the Serpents again. These are 3 crucial games for the Bombers, and if the Bombers, let's just say they win all 3, they go from a team outside looking in to a team at the top of the division. And I think that's something to that's where this is where the panic word comes into play, because you lose those 3 and now you're out of the picture. It is time to panic for I'd say all 3 of those teams towards the bottom, which 2 of those teams are obviously in the Phenoms. Serpents, I'm not panicking yet, but if you're towards the bottom of the epic picture right now, I think it's time to panic. You're only within a game and a half, and you play, I think, a couple of teams play each other still. It's about time to panic, and as you said, have a sense of urgency. I like that. I like the sense of urgency comment. I think that's a
little bit. I might need to do something here.
Yeah. So we move on to the week ahead. Week number 8. What? Week number 8. We have 13 weeks in the regular season. We're at number 8. That's insane to think about.
The time gone.
That is insane to think about. Week ahead. So far for week 7, obviously we don't have the result for Super Saturday, but for week 7, Fisack is 0-3 with his predictions. I am 2-1.
From first to worst.
And we are both, out of the last 2 weeks that we've kept track of this, we are now both 3-3. We're just average people. That's all we are. We're just great at guessing. We flip a coin and heads or tails. Welcome to the SSBL. So we're going to go ahead and talk about our games of the night presented by Turtle Beach this week. Day number 1.
I went against. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind for both day one and day two.
Dragons at Gaucho. Sasso versus Cade 6. You originally had the Dragons there, but you no longer have the Dragons there. You have the Gauchos winning once again in a one-run game, this time 4-3. I have the Dragons winning. I'm going to put on my dragon hat, and I'm going to, which I wish I had like a mascot, like a dragon. That'd be sick. I need to hit up like Lee Corso or something, and get as many of these mascot heads as possible. Dragons, I had them winning 5-2. I think their offense is waking up. Duke Town is showing up when he needs to, and I think it's time for the Dragons to get that big time victory under their belt. So I'm going Dragons. 5-2, day one in the SSBL game of the night, presented by Turtle Beach. And then day two, another.
I mean, are we gonna talk about my selection?
Oh yeah, Gaucho's 4-3. I think I said
Gaucho's 4-3. You know what? Yeah, but you know what this is. This is my competitive side of wanting to win everything, outwinning my pride of wanting to win in the SSBL. And they're very clearly, I have one priority right now, and that's to be better than I think what it is. I got rattled by 0-3. I was like, I'm untouchable, and then it turns out I was touchable. So I wanted to change that.
Respect. I respect that. But we have day two, game of the night.
Which I also changed.
Which you also changed. Vikings at Lumberjacks. I think it's going to be a little closer than the 9-1 game that we saw this week. You have it basically the same, less one run for the
it's holiday pitching. It's the holiday effect.
Okay, yeah. One less run for the Lumberjacks.
8-1.
8-1. The final is what you have with the Lumberjacks winning. I have the Lumberjacks winning 6-3. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I'm not sure.
I think this is the biggest upset alert. Purely because it's Holiday and Santana on the mounds.
And that's why I think it's going to be a little closer, is because of the Lumberjacks pitching at this rate. Holiday, I don't think Holiday is going to be giving up those runs, to be honest. I'm just going to make that clear. Holiday is probably not giving up those 6 runs. She might be giving up like 1 or 2, but she's not giving up all 6. It's that bullpen that's going to come in where she's going to get knocked out with extreme pain or something, and then it's just going to go downhill from there. And that's where I think the Lumberjacks come out on top 6-3. You have them 8-1, which is we're on the same page there, and we're on the same page with this next one. I say it every time. I've already said it once in this podcast. Probably the greatest rivalry in all of the SSBL. The Serpents, the Bombers. They face off for the first time this season. It's almost like, I think the Bombers have a 1-game lead in the overall. I think it's like they played 21 times or something crazy like that, and it's like 11-10. In favor of the Bombers. Whitney has that actual stat, but it's something like that. They face off for, I guess, the 22nd time in their history, and you have the Bombers taking it quite heavily with a 12-3 win.
I think the Bombers finally wake up in their season and they take care of business with Cass on the mound. Get your number one on the mound. Cass is better quality than Alfumi. Bombers start to turn the season around, and all of a sudden, the Bombers are 1 win away from leading the Epic Phenoms.
Yeah, and I have the Bombers winning 7-4. I do think the Bombers, like you said, they turn things around, they get things going. I think this is even though they have Murph, they trade for Murph Kelly. They're like, oh, it's the offense is gonna be like much better now. Murph Kelly goes to the injured list, but they call up Mickey Dadell Crusher, and now he's putting on a little offensive clinic. So we'll see if he can continue that heading into next week, which I think is going to be hopefully a much better week than this week.
The bar could not be any lower. It could not be any lower.
It
Josh.
can't.
I think it's safe to say that week 8's going to be a banger compared to week 7.
I sure hope so. I need some some upsets. I need some close games. I need a walk-off. I think it was Shag who said, it was Kawashi who asked about walk-offs in the Discord, and I'm just like, wait a second.
We haven't really had that many this season.
We've had two, and they were both the Bombers losing in walk-off fashion. And it was 2 walk-off home runs. It was day 1, and then it was against the ball players. So I think, We need more walk-off home runs. A walk-off grand slam would be nice too. You know, something crazy. We got to have something crazy after this snooze fest of a week we had here in week 7, which we could be jinxing Super Saturday. We could have some crazy games on Super Saturday. So, as
I'll
always,
make sure I reg it enough.
right? As always, we end the stream announcing the winner of this week's Turtle Beach headset for participating in the SSBL Game of the Night. Presented by Turtle Beach. And this week's winner is none other than Gaucho's manager, Large Marge. Thank you for always being a part of the league, being in the streams, jarring people when they need to get jarred, which was quite often the other day. So thanks for always being a part of this league. We appreciate you a lot within the league office. Your input is always listened to. But congratulations for winning this headset. And that's going to do it. Lucky number 7 episode is
out
down.
Under an hour as well. Let's give ourselves
a round of applause.
Out under an hour.
We got to clap for 5 minutes.
I'm sure everyone would love 24 hours of SSBL.
No, absolutely.
But especially the more concise we can make it, the more easier it is to spread the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an exciting time here in the SSBL. We've got a handful of followers. Let's go ahead and clap some more. Jacked has reached over 200 views across all episodes on YouTube, which to me I think that's a big monumental moment. We're averaging like 400 views in like a month now, which is like 400 more than we had before, and it's a very exciting thing. Jacked episode 5, by the way, is about to become our most viewed video on YouTube. It's at 40 something, and I think the highest is 46, 48, which for whatever reason it is Spartans and Good Boys in the first ever game of the minors that I casted in season 6.
Which let's be clear, these numbers are not that high. But what makes it so special is that we know pretty much like every single one of those names of people that are watching. And that's like, I was telling and just to end on a little bit of a sappy note, but I was telling my friends, like, one of my favorite parts about doing this podcast is like, yeah, it's 2 straight dudes doing a podcast, but it's better than that, right? Because this podcast serves a function, and that's to update everyone on how the league is going and getting us all constantly amped up for the next week's action.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of needless content that goes out where it's just people wanting to speak, whereas like we all share a passion here. And so when we have like 20 people watching this stream, that's not a lot of people, but it really is a lot of people because it is all of us investing into this league and enjoying our time together. Mm-hmm. So I'm just so happy with the community that we're building, because those aren't views, those are community members.
Yeah, and I look at it this way: when you have I think our highest that we've actually had from a true max standpoint, there was one time back in like season 4, I believe, maybe even season 3, that we got rated by somebody that Pandora, I think, knew. And we got like the 69 viewers, and I'm not kidding. We maxed at 69 viewers on the raid, but that I don't count that. But outside of that, I think our max is like 28 or so. It's something like that. I think this season our max has been 23, which I look at it this way. When you have 23 people, imagine 23 people all in a room, 23 people in one room watching AI versus AI baseball. That's how I look at it. And I think that's a lot of people. Think of it. Obviously, you being in college, you have some classes that you at this stage you probably have like 20 something people.
I teach more than 23 people.
Right. So just imagine like that's 23 is a lot of people. So we're building a very good community. I do want to say props to Dean, because he plugged the community like crazy during his cast, which I appreciate him also stepping in. He plugged the community and talked about community more than a league, because it's what we're building here. We are a league. We have our managers. We get frustrated after losing, frustrated even when we're winning. Like but we're a community.
then to do more community.
We're very much a community here more than a league itself. We talk about everything, and as I said before, there's the Wordle chat, there's the lore suggestion, and
Dude, that reminds me, I need to do the Wordle right now.
One day the lore suggestion needs to be written into like a comic book series. That's all. That's what needs to happen. There are so many great stories told, and again, this is AI versus AI, so the passion, and also shout out to Shag put, like, he goes like the extra mile, like, for his graphics. After, like, I don't know if you saw his post,
Yeah.
like, he will trim like someone walking to first, but it looks like he's sad, but he just got walked, but it looks like he's sad because they just got defeated 19-4. So shout out to everyone, you know, like literally every manager, everyone who tunes in. Chrome, who I know he's part of the RFL as like an insider over there, but he's also he's such a great asset here and such a big fan, and you know, he comes in on color commentary here every once in a while. So shout out to everyone within the community, and we have reached an hour. I did it. I knew I could get there to the 1 hour.
And I just cut the Wordle in 2.
Congratulations to you. And thanks, as always, guys, for tuning in. This is Jacked. My name is Jaywatt, alongside Fisack. We will see you next week for episode 8.
Keep on rigging, everybody.